Hello, and welcome to Mapping the College Audition, a podcast where we explore the landscape of the college theater world and try to demystify this daunting audition process. As ever, I am your host, Charlie Murphy, one of the directors of MTCA, that's Musical Theater College Auditions, and today we've got our other director coming on the pod to celebrate our 100th episode. Pew, 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 pew. Leo Ash Evans is on the pod, and many of you listening will know him, or at least know of him. Alongside being the other director of MTCA, Leo is a fellow Carnegie Mellon graduate, much older than me, of course, and grew up a stone's throw away from my house in the suburbs of Pittsburgh, though we didn't know each other until meeting with MTCA. I think you're really going to enjoy the interview. Leo and I squeezed it in a busy day with meetings and end-of-year consults for our seniors, but we had a lot of fun, as we always do, chatting with each other. I'm going to skip the personal update today and just throw out a huge thank you to you, our listeners, as we reach our 100th episode. I started this podcast a few years back knowing that there was a demand for it and knowing that I had some things to explore and some things to say, but also desperately did not want to write a book. But I really didn't anticipate quite the level of success and interest that there would be. I knew people who were going through this process or who had just gone through this process would be interested, but we've ended up reaching a much broader listener base in terms of age and location than I had really dreamed of. According to our metrics, we've reached almost 20,000 unique listeners with many more tens of thousands of downloads. We've reached listeners in 75 countries, many of which I can't pronounce and won't try to here. And while we have students all over the world, there are many countries represented on that list that we have never had students in, which speaks to the power of the internet and speaks to the generosity of all of you as listeners, sharing it with your networks and helping to spread this pod all over the globe. This podcast is certainly a labor of love and a passion project. Of course, it serves to advertise our company for those who can afford coaching services like ours, but we do want it to be of use to all, including those who can't. So, along with my deepest thank you to our listeners for making this podcast successful, I want to thank the people who make it happen. First off, the amazing Meghan Cordier for helping me put this project into motion and helping me every day with so many things. The multi-talented Will Reynolds, as well as the begrudging Elizabeth Stanley for our theme music. All of our guests who generously donate their time and talents. And to my partner in crime, Leo, for generously allowing me to dedicate this large portion of my MTCA work time to something I enjoy so much. And with that, let's bring him on, the incomparable Leo Ash Evans. Well, we are beyond excited to have the great Leo Ash Evans on the pod today. Don't call me Evans, it's Evans, for our 100th episode. Leo has a BFA from Carnegie Mellon University. He's been on Broadway in shows like Jesus Christ Superstar, his debut, which I was most certainly in the front row for, Shuffle Along, School of Rock, lots of great off-Broadway stuff and tours. For instance, like West Side Story, one of the many times he played Riff, 42nd Street. He also has a really wonderful voiceover career that we're going to get into, and is the other director of MTCA, my partner and work husband. Leo, welcome to the pod. How are you feeling today?
It feels good to be back. I love it. I'm very excited to do this.
Are you honored to be our 100th episode? I mean, this is the centennial.
When you said 100, I first couldn't believe that you actually are up to 100. And then I thought, well, I better be. No, okay. No, but when Meghan asked me, I was like, well, hell yeah. Of course I'd love that.
We thought about saving you for 1,000, but we thought, no, we got to go for the 100. We'll get.
We can't keep the people waiting that long.
No.
The truth is truth. I'm going to start you off with the first question because everyone wants to know about your life. And we're going to talk a lot about the sort of theme of today is like, how do I become a Leo Ash Evans? But we'll start with the same question we ask everybody, which is if you can remember back to 16, 17-year-old Leo and what you were thinking about in the college process. So like if you had a goal for like, here's what I think I'm looking for in a school, really when you started the process, what were those goals and maybe how did it change over the course of the process as you did it?
I mean, it feels like it was so many moons ago. It was so long ago. No, but I would say that the number one thing that I wanted out of a school that sounds so basic is to learn. Mm-hmm. Like I really wanted to be in school because I never felt that I was ready to make a professional career. I always felt my gosh, I know there's so much for me to learn. And I knew that like the principal acting work within musicals and plays was always my passion. So I knew that in order to be more likely successful in doing it, I needed to train. So
Yep.
I didn't even care so much about which school as much as I have got to get training.
Yep. And you often talk to our wonderful MTCA students about your relationship with your parents.
Mhm.
Tell me a little bit. What was that like navigating this process with them? Were they supportive from the beginning? Did they have separate goals of yours? How did that go for you?
They were always supportive. I feel very fortunate that, especially with all of our MTCA students, when there's pressure in the house or someone isn't as supportive of a theater career, my parents always, they love the arts. They took me to plays and musicals. They were always listening to soundtracks in the car, movie soundtracks, show recordings. So yeah, I always had a very supportive family. They always wanted me to pursue the dream. It was never about how much money are you going to make.
Mm-hmm.
It was never about being at the top of a law firm or some big successful surgeon or doctor like that. Never. It was always about what makes you happy. And I think if my parents were here, I think my mom would certainly say this started young, that you were
Mm-hmm.
like, running around the house. Apparently my father tells a story. I don't totally remember this to be true, but apparently he tells a story that I got into a big fight with him. He doesn't remember exactly what we were fighting about, but I went, well, Dad, I'm going to be on Broadway. And I stormed up the room and like slammed my door. I definitely believe that I would be emotional enough to scream that. There's no question about that. But I still don't quite remember the story like that. But according to him, that's how I punctuated the argument.
And how right you were. How right you ended up being. But so you ended up getting into a lot of schools. You did this process.
Yeah.
What made you pull the trigger on Carnegie Mellon? What made you say, this is definitely the right fit for me? I want to go here.
Well, the irony of that is that because growing up, 40, 45 minutes north of the city on a good day, I never thought I'd want to go there. I always thought that going to college meant get away from home. I was very aware of the reputable program. I was aware, as a Pittsburgher, the prestige that came with the program. But, my parents were Michigan grads, so they were really excited for me to audition for Michigan. And when I got there, I thought, this campus is like really big. Are we still walking on the campus? So it wasn't until I did the actual audition at school that made me fall in love. And I remember exactly who I talked to. His name was Justin Brill. Justin Brill was a junior when I was a freshman. And I thought, he's like me. Like this guy talks and sounds and like I want to be like him. So I remember that. And I remember Gary Klein, and I remember Don Wadsworth. I remember the long creaky hallway of Margaret Morrison. This is before the Purnell Center that they currently have, in these like creaky wood floors. And I thought, you know what, creaky wood, that means good acting.
The creaky wood is what sealed the deal.
Yeah, there was like a creakiness, and I was like, ooh, there's a lot of talent here. Like it just all came together. And then I just kind of like everybody else in this process, you're like, I don't know if I'm going to get in. They talked to me, and they gave me adjustments, but I just kind of kept my fingers crossed.
I got to quibble with you with 45 minutes away from Carnegie Mellon. Are you taking a horse-drawn carriage? I mean, come on. I got to pedal to the metal. I make it in 25 minutes. Come on.
Really? 25?
Oh, for sure.
Maybe
Fly
you're
at
right.
79.
Not 45. Maybe 30, 35.
So tell me a little bit about, so then you did get in, you chose to go to Carnegie Mellon. Tell me a little bit about the Carnegie experience for you. What was it like? What's like the biggest thing that you take away from those years?
Right. It really, I think the biggest thing I take is the talent of my classmates. I mean, the teachers, of course, were amazing, but I remember just thinking, my God, I am surrounded with so many really good people. So I think the inspiration came frequently from just day in and day out, looking up to people that did amazing things that I wanted to aspire to be like. And, artistically, I just had never, North Allegheny High School, an amazing place, but not loaded with a lot of people majoring in theater. So to finally meet people that were like me was amazing. And I think the other, these years are coveted. You never get this chapter back. And there's something so beautifully vulnerable and sensitive. And I was learning who I was as a man, as an artist. It wasn't just about growing as an actor, but there's something about that, like 16, 17 to 21, 22. And it just was you don't realize the power of it while you're in it. But the further away I am at my older age now, when I look back, I think, my gosh, those were such pivotal years because I grew so much as a person.
Is there a class that you feel like, I never thought I would use this, or that you're surprised how much you ended up using? Is there a class that you like particularly remember fondly?
Voice and speech was the class that I thought, oh God, get me out of here. This is so boring. Breaking the light bulbs. Oh my God. I was like, this is ridiculous. If my parents knew they were supporting me with that tuition, they would be, I thought they would think we're laying on the ground. What are we doing? And I would like, and I remember we would like leave class and I'm like, are you guys liking
We
this?
just moaned for half an hour. That was it?
Right. What are we doing? But now other projects that other classmates complained about, like animal projects, for example, I had Barbara for that. I loved it. I was like, I get to embody an animal and walk in a circle and then like create a human, where other people were complaining about that. I thought that was really cool. But yeah, so I would say the class that surprised me is voice and speech. The other person that really made an impact on me was Thomas Douglas, who was so much about not kind of getting it right. It's either right or it isn't. And he was like it was a music skills, music theater workshop class. And he was quite inspiring. And he would call us out, Charlie. He would say, did you guys really learn this song, or did you listen to the cast recording? Because just because you listen to the cast recording doesn't mean it's accurate. And I remember being like, ooh, Leo, you have been caught red-handed. You totally listened to the cast recording.
Jimmy Nicholas called that class life skills. He was like, it's music skills, but we called it life skills, really.
Yeah, I agree with Jimmy. That is totally true. It's like he teaches unbelievable lessons to life. Yeah.
What about now? Of course, so many of our friends and colleagues are becoming professors and heads of these programs, my God. But if you could go back and teach a class at Carnegie Mellon, what do you feel like was missing? What are you like, I wish I'd known a little bit more of this?
Well, I guess, and this is no criticism to the school, but I think sometimes they hold on to all of the amazing teachers for 4 years in a beautiful way that I love for the 4 years. But if, as I look back, the one thing I wish I would have had is maybe someone from New York City or someone from LA, somebody who was there regularly, maybe for a semester or two senior year, that could really give the real play-by-play as far as the business goes. Because I always kind of had a natural knack for the entrepreneurial side of me. Little did I realize MTCA would come along the way that it did. But even as an actor, I like the idea of thinking of me as Leo Ash Evans Incorporated or Leo Ash Evans the business, not just like, where do I fit in? So I wish that maybe the business side of stuff senior year wasn't the school teaching it to you, but maybe some more outside help. I know other schools now do that. The other thing was, Charlie, like I was on the cusp of pop rock in the music theater in New York City. It was just happening with like Saturday Night Fever, and Hairspray was about to open. So I wish I could have had more classes with that, because that took me a long time to get more confident singing. I was more confident with my contemporary and traditional music theater stuff. And now it's like, it's such a part of everybody's book.
Well, it's a huge part of your Broadway career too,
Right.
in terms of what you're singing.
That's the irony. Yeah. Right.
So then I love it. We'll get into some of the coaching and some of the entrepreneurial sense a little bit more in the second half. But I'd love to just take that Leo Ash Evans Inc. at 22, sort of entering into the business. What was it like in terms of, you showcase, and then what happens? How are you navigating those early first years as you're hitting the city?
I was so hungry, Charlie. I used to always say to everybody, I was having a relationship with show business. I mean, I did start to have an actual relationship at 25, but for the first 3 years, I was in like a full committed monogamous relationship with
the honeymoon
music
phase. Just making out all the time.
All the time. Oh, making out at Pearl, at Ripley, online, the Actors Equity building. I mean, but no, what I was very fortunate to score an agent right out of Showcase. That was really helpful to have someone, as they like to say, the Leo team. I always tell young actors, of course, it's not just about the agent. So of course, the main reason I was successful right out of the gate was the fact that I was hungry. I hustled. I mean, I remember packing a bag. My first year was living in Astoria, Queens with 2 roommates. And I remember packing a bag which would have jazz shoes, tap shoes, an extra pair of dress shoes to go with the extra button down that had the repertoire, that had the water bottle, that had the snack bar. I mean, and I loved it. I remember a paper planner. Yes, people, it took me a while. Telly, my best friend, he always laughs and says, Leo, you're electronically deficient, which is that's true. But the reality is that I had that paper planner and I would write out auditions. I would highlight, I'd asterisk. But the point is that I loved like looking ahead for the week and going, okay, what are the agent calls? What are my EPAs? What are my chorus calls? It was awesome.
Well, and I love, you had such a successful early career,
Mm-hmm.
but the delay to the Broadway debut, right? There's a bit of time before we're going to hit that Broadway debut. I'd love to kind of talk about those years where you're navigating, you're doing these tours, you're doing international shows, you're doing regional shows. What was that experience of balancing kind of building that life in New York City and the relationship you're having with New York City and the show business there, but also performing so many different places? How did that work as you're kind of navigating those different areas?
Yeah, it was interesting. I was going to a lot of those open calls or agent submissions for Broadway too. I just wasn't booking those at a young age. I think in a lot of ways I was meant to be on that principal track right off the bat, and I kept booking international. Like you said, Billy Lawler in 42nd Street was my first big booking right out of college in September, and I left the country and was in Moscow, Russia. You said earlier, Riff and West Side Story. And then I went on a string of lots of principal roles in regional theater, off Broadway, and I just kept booking. And of course, you ride the wave. And yeah, it just kind of, for me, what I loved about principal work was that I could feel and experience myself growing as an artist as I played those roles. So to me, it wasn't so much about I got to take that role for health insurance weeks or pay. It was more of, Leo, you just booked the MC in Cabaret. You just booked Black Stash and Peter and the Starcatcher. Those roles are going to be not only so invigorating, but you're going to keep growing. So I think Carnegie Mellon really instated a lot of that in me. And then I wanted to keep at it. So as I started to book those roles, that just felt, in a way, Broadway became less significant to me. I actually didn't care as much about the Broadway show because I thought, I'm working consistently from gig to gig to gig. And I was happy doing that. So it's funny that when I had the debut and my agents called me, I laughed. And he was like, Leo, why are you laughing? I said, I just think it's funny after all these years. It happened. And I didn't even really take that. I mean, I took it seriously, but I just didn't. To your point earlier about, and my debut, 2 of my shows have been Andrew Lloyd Webber rock shows. I just never imagined originally that would be the path.
Yep.
And then it happened.
And by the time it happened, it was no longer on the pedestal for you that it might have been at 24 or something. It wasn't
right
in the place of it's everything.
Yeah. At 24, 25, like when I wasn't booking Broadway, I did have some, like, I don't know if I'd say embarrassment, but I was thinking, I thought it would have happened by now. Why didn't it happen? And it would, but then pretty quickly, because I was always working, I did own, well, that's not your path at the moment. And I think I always knew in my heart of hearts, Leo, you're not like hanging it up at 30. So, as I kept going, and that is advice I always give young actors, which is you just stay at it. And if you want to do it, it likely comes your way.
And was there any kind of like, and this is now we're going to get into some of your life with MTCA too, and all the other things you're building in New York City. But was there any of that kind of geographic consideration at some point for you to say like, I do want to do stuff in New York too, in terms of I'm doing all this amazing stuff, but it's pulling me away from the city. Of like, was there a conversation with agents of like, I want to do stuff, even if it's off Broadway, but in New York?
Yes, that did start to happen a little bit with the career of like, I keep going away. It actually was another actor who jokingly said, Leo, you're like the regional king. And I went,
you're like the kiss of death.
That's nice. Yeah. Like, yeah. Aren't you sweet? Like, and it was weird because ultimately at my heart of hearts, I was so proud of those accomplishments. Yes. So I knew that the path that I was on was right for me. And that Charlie, it wasn't exciting to me. I would have gone from a chorus ensemble track to another one at a young age, but it wasn't the path for me. And I just was playing these principal roles and I felt myself growing. Then once I was on it, the irony was that my first gig on Broadway was a featured ensemble track. So that's that's kind of why I laughed, was I thought, oh my God, after all this time, when I was ready to book it. Yeah.
Yep, totally. But there's something to your point of like, you did all that training of like, you got to flex those muscles in a different way, playing principal roles. It is a different experience no matter where you're doing it.
Right.
Let's talk a little bit about some of those iconic roles. And I think I want to maybe especially talk about some of those iconic roles you've played multiple times, right? You got to do the MC, you got to do riff, right? You got to have a couple cracks at some of these roles.
Yeah.
How do you approach that role for yourself when you're doing that little like personal remount? Like, is there something conscious of like, I'm trying to explore a different thing this version, or is it I'm just letting it speak to me however it comes with this director? How do you approach that when you're playing it for a third, fourth, fifth time?
Yeah, and this is another irony to my career. I wasn't necessarily looking hard for repeating all of these roles, but I've been so fortunate that a lot of these roles that I have been able to repeat are like some of the biggest musicals in our songbook collection and musical
canon. He means the word canon.
Canon. Charlie, that's it. I couldn't think.
I know.
I was so excited to get to do them. But yeah, I mean, things like the MC or riff, I was always still hungry to do more. And what's so cool about the second time or the third time is now you're starting the first rehearsal with it really already in your body. Mm-hmm. But now you get to explore other textures and other colors and other layers that maybe you didn't get to do. I mean, the one disadvantage to regional theater is the short shelf life. You do all of that work and then you have what, like a 2-week run, a 3-week run? I mean, maybe summer stock, a 1-week run? I mean, so you do all that same work that you would if it was Broadway, but then it ends. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times, you find your best work in the last couple shows. And then you're like, oh no. I mean, so when the second time I booked the MC, the director at the callback actually said to me, Leo, I actually would like to ask you, why are you here and wanting to do the role again?
Right.
And I loved it. And I said, thank you for asking me that. I said, I am so like, I just feel so shortchanged. I feel like I was robbed of a full MC experience the first time because at Houston Theater Under the Stars, Houston Tuts, it was a great run, but it was a month. Mm-hmm. That was it. So I was so excited to explore it. The other thing too is what's great about regional theater is the size of a house. So like the first time I did it, I think it was a 1,600 or 1,400 seat house. The next time was, I think, 600 seats in Denver. So that really changed the experience for me. And I don't know, probably it's the Carnegie Mellon actor boy in me, but I just love different directors, different approaches. I've never, Charlie, artistically been latched onto saying, this is the way you play the MC. This is the way, this is riff. I would rather have like the artistic experience with a director going, I'm seeing it like this. And then I get to contribute. Really, that's interesting because I approach it this way. So what are we going to create together? Mm-hmm. That to me is like way more exciting than, the one way. So again, I think it is, I talk about that a lot, that I played Tulsa so many times, Will Parker. And, I just came off of playing Tate and Ragtime.
Yes.
I know that's going to happen again.
Yep.
I finished it and I went, Leo, you're already on the younger, youthful side. Mm-hmm. You're going to do this again. And I can't wait to do it again.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to take a short break. We're going to run a few ads. And on the back end, we're going to talk about the many hyphens of Leo Ash Evans. Okay, we are back with the great Leo Ash Evans, and we're going to talk about the many wonderful hyphens that make up my wonderful work husband. But before we get into the complexity of the hyphens, the theme of this episode is how does one become a Leo Ash Evans? And before the specifics, I want to go to the big picture, because this is a question I think a lot of our parents and former students always would like to ask. You, my work husband, like to throw around C's like cost and curriculum. And I'm going to throw some C's back at you. You ready for this?
Okay.
You are a person who is overflowing with both charisma and confidence, right? That's something I think of when I see you. How do you cultivate the charisma and confidence that it takes to be a Leo Ash Evans?
Charlie, that made me tear up. That's really sweet that you took the C's and created Leo C's. That is accurate. You are 100% right. Charisma is something I feel I was born with. I do feel like that was something that like I just wake up and I do have a lot of that energy and my parents rewarded that part of my personality. Mm-hmm. The confidence, I guess, I think first comes from, like my parents and just the belief that they had in me. So yeah, I mean, those are very accurate. Confidence and charisma are both traits that I do lead with.
And so many of our parents, they'll always ask me this. I'm like, where does Leo, sometimes I'm like, where do both of you, but where does Leo get the energy? Like, what fuels Leo? Like, what keeps him going?
I don't know. I mean, I do think that sometimes I do think it's weird how much, like, I'll look at my week and I'll go, Leo, how are you still operating with this much energy?
Wow.
I think that this is the classic answer that I know a lot of people give. I love what I do, Charlie. There is nothing in my day that I'm ever doing that I'm like, I don't want to do this. Like, or like my amazing assistant Lisa does it, or I have an accountant that does it, or I know that I need to reward myself with, I get a massage once a month. Like, I am willing to reward myself. I take vacations. I didn't take vacations all the way through my 20s. So I do think it is important to know yourself and what you need. And then, I do remember back when Oprah was on TV. God, I miss that show on like ABC a day at 4:00. And I remember she had an entrepreneurship, or not entrepreneurship, but entrepreneurs, business owners on TV. And they were all like, millionaire, billionaires. How do you find your success? And one of them did say, you got to love what you do to make money at what you do. So there is something to say for, I'm grateful that I do wake up with all of this energy, but then a lot of it is fueled by the actual work that I'm doing, the tasks that I believe in my different buckets or different, areas, but it's also the people you work with. So like you, my friend, my partner in crime, you can't work with people that they're not your people.
Yep. Yeah. So true. Well, and the third C would be passionate. It just doesn't start with a C, but you're definitely very passionate as well. That is definitely.
We'll make up a word. Passionate.
He's caffeinated. Yeah. Okay, let's do some more C's and some hyphens.
Wait a minute. That's a story that is pretty good. Remember, I can't remember which mother was it when we were doing a webinar and she said, Leo, are you actually drinking coffee? Like you need any more energy?
At 9 p.m. or whatever.
Right. I was like, well, you tried doing this at 9 p.m. Yes, I need coffee.
Too funny. But some more C's, I want to talk about career coaching because before you started with your wonderful MTCA work, you were a career coach, right? I think it's one of the reasons we met through the wonderful Telly Leung, our first Mapping the College Audition artist guest, shout out, knew you were doing career coaching, said this is someone who's going to be a great fit for MTCA. Yeah. What inspired that early work? And I guess, what would it have looked like if I, back in the day, were like, I want to go to Leo Ash Evans and get some career coaching?
Yeah. Well, it all started kind of on its own. I wasn't like trying to be a coach, but all of my peers that I would audition with knew I was working steadily and they were, I think, inspired by it. And I remember one time a female said to me, Leo, what is it? What's your trick? And I said, trick? I don't have a trick, but I did start to rattle off a couple things that I do thinking she does them too. I had talked about recording my auditions as far as like a log goes, not actual audio, but recording what I do, how I felt about it, kind of like journaling, but I would do it consistently. I had like an industry log where I was keeping track of the people that I've worked with, and I thought that these were kind of basic tools that everybody was doing. I mean, I guess I didn't learn that at Carnegie Mellon. It was kind of just something that I, in a nerdy way, kind of wanted to just, I think I knew in my head, Leo, you're meeting these people through readings and workshops and shows, figure out your system. And I was creating a system, devising a system for myself. So then when somebody asked, she said, well, let me pay you. And I said, no. Let's just, you don't have to do that. She said, no, I want to. So then I started realizing, oh, well, wait a minute. I guess I could make money helping people. I love the idea of being able to help make some money in my young 20s. But it was always fueled, again, with the task at hand, which was I liked knowing that what comes naturally to me in a confident, charismatic way, where other people were negative, jaded, down on themselves, lacked the self-confidence, I could really inspire people. And I think I'm good with professional actors to listen and hear their problem and then, again, prompt the right questions so that they figure it out, just like good directors for actors.
Yep.
Because everyone's career is so unique and individual that I don't know. I think what makes a good career coach or just coach period is someone who doesn't have like a black and white way. You've got to recognize that each individual has their own kind of path. And if you can help, if you can help blossom that for that individual, then that's how they're successful.
Well, as a career coach, and then for many years as an all-star monologue coach, and then an assistant director, and now director. I mean, also you did song coaching with MTCA, dance coaching. You've done it all. A true triple threat, quadruple threat, whatever it
Yeah.
is. What about, from those monologue coaching days, what was like your favorite thing about being a monologue coach? What do you miss the most from those days?
I do miss it. I'm so glad you asked that. I do miss it. And all my kiddos out there that had me out there. What's so wild is my last student now works for MTCA, Kate Fahey. She was my last monologue student. But I would say the thing I miss the most is just the one-on-one connection.
Mm-hmm.
I do miss that I love as a director leading big groups of students and groups of parents, but there's something really, really beautiful and special about that one-on-one.
Mm-hmm.
I miss that. I miss helping people find pieces that they really connect with. I had a great collection of pieces, still do. And I just feel like that's really fun to see somebody read something that goes, Leo, that's what I want.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I miss that. What I love about the current situation, unlike that, was that was only a one-on-one and I wasn't reaching volumes of people, which I know provide me a different kind of satisfaction.
Uh-huh. Well, and then what about as a director? I mean, obviously something you're currently doing, and you've seen this process from beginning to end now for over a decade in terms of seeing all these students and all these families go through this. What is your favorite part of taking this journey with our families each year? What do you love the most about it?
I like diffusing a lot of false information or rumors that exist from someone else's previous experience. I really like to make each family feel that it is personalized for them, because that's how they've been successful in getting into lots and lots of programs. And again, there is no one size fits all in acting. I mean, I feel this way about my own performing career all the time. Relationships come and go. Directors that you think you're going to work with and rehire you don't. I mean, I can think of shows that I thought that's going to be my Broadway debut, and then it closed. I mean, so similarly to MTCA, people who feel that school is the end all be all. And I'm going, why are you doing that? Why are you creating this false reality that all the answers live at X school over here? Well, what about Y and Z over there? Like they are wonderful. So I like the challenge to try to make a family realize all the answers don't exist in one school.
It's such a funny bit of advice that you're giving there, because when we're just about to release Talia, who's a former MTCA student, and that is one thing.
And one of my monologue students.
I was going to say, that's one of the things that she said. She said the only thing she would have changed about her process if she'd done it again was to not think that all the answers lived at one school.
Yeah.
Because it didn't end up being the school that she went to, and she loved the school that she went to. So
yeah.
A little bit of a success story there.
Yeah.
What about the sort of struggle of balancing it all, right? As you proudly lead with all these hyphens, we're going to talk about voiceovers too, another hyphen of yours. Do you find it difficult to be clear to the outside world of like, I'm still an actor in navigating all this?
Yes.
As people say, who are you? What are you doing? What's all this stuff?
Yes, it's terrible. It's my one thing about it that I always tell people, that while it has a lot of positives and perks, it is really hard in show business to wear multiple hats. I've kind of had a little secret sideline laugh in the pandemic, watching so many people suddenly discover all of these other artistic skills that now they want to, invest in. And I'm thinking, are you kidding me, guys? Like, I've been doing this since 25, coaching, voiceovers, acting. It's hard though, because certainly each bucket can live in its own kind of siloed island for me. And I'm the one who has to make sure that the energy and the attention is spacing stuff out. The other interesting parallel, Charlie, is that I'm a Libra, and Libras are all about balancing scales. So I do feel in my life, like especially with the pandemic, I had never gone almost 2 years without doing a stage show before, and that was eating me alive. So when Ragtime finally happened, I was like, oh my God, thank God. Like it felt so good to get to do it again. So that's how and why I'm successful at doing multiple areas, is that I do seriously love all of them. So, I remember when I had my Broadway debut and someone said, oh, so now you're done coaching. Oh, are you going to give up MTCA? And I went, no, idiot. Oh, no. Why would I do that? Right. What are you talking? I adjust the schedule. Sure. But so, yeah, and then it's also just a good business answer. The reality is now, like, the show that must go on didn't, like, the show closed. Like, we watched so many people, I think, then learned, just out of necessity, you got to be smart about your career. And
how do you diversify?
Yeah, diversifying is huge. So that's where my voiceover career I'm so grateful for, because it is a much more lucrative business than stage. So
you and I share a voiceover agency now. Woot woot. But how did you discover this talent of yours? And how do you continue to work to cultivate this? Because it's something you're really so successful at. How did that happen for you? That's not something that necessarily everyone who graduates from drama school is stepping into that career.
Yeah. Well, it stays in the Carnegie Mellon family because Sue Soretta, who I had been doing a lot of, Suzanne Soretta, I always called her Sue in school, but now she goes by Suzanne. She has a very successful voiceover career herself at Innovative. And when I was working with her for something unrelated, it was actually, she does a lot of great accent dialect work.
Mm-hmm.
I was working with her on that. And then she said to me, do you have a voiceover agent? And I said, no, I've been trying to do this. It's really hard. I used to do it in Pittsburgh a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And then she introduced me. And even when she introduced me, I thought, they're just taking a meeting to be nice. And then I remember Deborah Sherry, she was my point person at the time, was like, all right, you sound great. I'll start sending you out. And I'm like, what? No, you're not.
Right.
And then she did. And then one of the big reasons I always say this to young actors, so much of success in whatever field is also a little bit of luck.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a little bit of luck that I booked a sharp national voiceover. I think it was on my third audition or something.
Mm-hmm.
So that helped a lot because then I think that gave them they were like, see, we told you you're great at it. So it was something like that. And I thought, oh my God, I'm embarrassed. I can't believe not embarrassed. I was so excited. And they've been amazing. I mean, it's the voiceover world's changed a lot. A lot of what was union work now is sadly non-union
Mm-hmm.
work. So that's hard on me. But they've been amazing. I mean, they've just been awesome.
Well, other than just getting lucky and booking your third audition,
Yeah.
what advice would you give to a young actor, or maybe a not so young actor who's a fellow podcast host and work husband, if you're trying to build that voiceover career?
Yeah.
What are the things that you can kind of actively be doing to improve or to work to? What advice would we give? If I'm trying to
I will say, just like singing and acting, dancing, like it is practicing. I mean, there is that. Like, you can now with our phones. It doesn't have to be a high tech microphone. You can practice anywhere. It's all about, first, it's all the same things with acting. Voiceover is always about who's your audience, who are you talking to, what do you want? Even though it's only in like one or two sentences, that stuff still exists.
Mm-hmm.
And then someone gave me this advice. Actually, it was Deborah. Said to me, when you're doing multiple reads, don't give too many different versions, or it sounds like nothing is authentic.
Uh-huh.
So her point was, live in a world that is authentically your voice, and then give slightly different versions of what you're doing. Not that you're giving like three polar opposite. Hi, how you doing? Hi, how you doing? Like they don't. Then they're like, which one's Leo?
Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't help. But yeah, and then I think it's to simplify. That's the biggest thing, is that we're in that little me, myself, and I moment. And something I did, Charlie, in the pandemic and in my new condo that I purchased is I made my walk-in closet a voiceover booth. So that was like the best money I've ever spent, because now all my auditions are in there. I've done bookings in there.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny. It's like you go in there and you're like, oh, hi, jeans. Hi, button down. Hi, hoodie.
Absorbs the sound. It's all good for it.
It's so good. And it's also weird. I'm like, hey, we're real close in here. But it's been good. Yeah.
I love it. Okay, I think it's time to play our very special game. As all of our artist guests do, you have already played 2 versions of the Newlywed Game. And I've realized this is a game that's really about me. But this is your episode, so we're going to play a game that's all about you and your special interests. I'm calling it Plant or Plant. So we're calling on Green Leo, and we're going to try to sniff out the difference between real plants or fake plastic plants that you hate. One of your least favorite things on earth, okay? Sneezewort. Sneezewort.
I do know plants with wart as the second half, so I'm going to guess that that's real.
That is real. Sneezewort is real.
Yeah.
Okay. Ficus lyrata.
Real.
That's real. It's a fiddly fig.
I know a ficus. Yeah.
There we go.
I have one.
Fireside chat.
Fireside chat?
Yep.
That is the name of something else. Plastic.
Fake. That's right. That's like what FDR did for like people.
Right.
Okay. Milk thistle.
Well, that's interesting. I know milkweed, milk thistle. I'm going to say that's real.
It is real. You're 4 for 4. You're doing great so far.
Yeah.
Monkey puzzle tree.
Wait a minute.
Monkey puzzle tree.
Puzzle tree, like TREE. I want spellings.
Yes, monkey, the word
Puzzle
puzzle, and then the word tree.
You know, this kind of reminds me of Balderdash, where you're supposed to make up and then you
That's what I've
guess them.
done. Yeah.
Monkey puzzle tree. I'm going to say plastic.
It's our first. That's
Damn
a real.
it.
That is real. It's a real tree. Okay. Crassula ovata. Crassula ovata.
I mean, that's so sexy, that name. I like it. I want it to be real.
It is real. It's a jade plant. Is that another word for jade plant?
You mean, wait, what did you say? You mean a jade plant?
For those not in the video, Leo has real props.
Oh, yeah, nobody can see that. I forgot about
Pixie's nose.
What is this, Peter Pan?
Pixie's nose.
Pixie's nose? I'm going to say, I know nose in names. I'm going to say that's real.
It's fake. It's fake. Fake. Sticky Willy. Sticky Willy.
This is hysterical. Sticky Willy? I mean, what is this webinar? What is the webinar? What is this podcast trying to get to?
Yeah, exactly.
Sticky Willy. There aren't weird names. I'm going to say real.
That's real. Sticky Willy is real.
Yeah.
Mimbolus Mimbletonia.
Oh my God.
Mimbolus Mimbletonia.
Real.
It's fake. It's from the Harry Potter universe. Mimbolus Mimbletonia is a Harry Potter plant. Moonshadow's breath. Moonshadow's breath.
Sounds terrible. Moonshadow's breath. I'm gonna guess Moonshadow's breath. Their moon is in plant names. I'll say real.
It's fake. I made it up.
Oh Jesus.
Kangaroo paws. Kangaroo paws.
Real.
I like it. You got it in there. Real. It's correct. It is real. Corpse flower. Corpse flower.
Real.
Correct. Butcher's broom.
Fake. Plastic.
Real. It's real. It's real.
Damn it.
Goat's beard.
Oh Lord. Goat's beard? Don't they already have them? No. Goat's beard. Real.
Real. That's correct. Whiskey in the Glen. Whiskey in the Glen.
I mean, the amazing thing is so many of these real plants that I've gotten right, I don't know what they are.
Some of these are like crazy obscure off the internet, let's be clear. Most of these are not like common plants.
Whiskey in the Glen. This sounds like a Don Wadsworth game. Did you do this with him? I don't remember the episode. Okay. I would say fake.
I made that up. Whiskey in the Glen.
That sounds a little
too much. It was a little too much.
Yeah.
Lion's tail.
Oh, well, there's a lot of tails. I'll say real.
That is real.
Yeah.
Scarlet Pimpernel.
Shut up, Charlie. That is fake.
It's real. There's a real Scarlet Pimpernel.
There is a Scarlet Pimpernel. Actually, you know what? There is a flower on the logo.
That is the Scarlet Pimpernel. So there we are.
I never knew that.
That was a tricky one. All right, we have two more. Chlorophytum comosum. Chlorophytum comosum.
Real.
That's a spider plant. That's right.
Yeah.
Cynomiscule cotyroidal gauthily.
This is just Charlie wanting to listen to his voice.
That's this entire podcast, Leo. I don't know what you want from me. It's exactly true.
That would be a lot for you to make up. But would you? I'm going to say it's real.
It is fake. It's an anagram of Musical Theater College Auditions. I just mix up the letters to end it up.
That's good. I give you perks for that. That was good.
In wrapping up here, I just do want to talk. We've been talking a lot of our recent guests about their relationship with social media. So like, how you use it for yourself in terms of what you're outputting, right? What you're presenting on social media, and then also in terms of your own consumption. I know we have MTCA social media that you're doing too. So what is your personal relationship with social media in terms of input and output?
You know, ultimately lately, not that great. I've just been kind of like exhausted by it. I kind of feel I think coming out of the pandemic, it makes me just hunger and long for what is real, which is picking up the phone and calling someone, at least texting them, but really calling them and actually like seeing people. So like something I've been giving myself as an assignment, it's like, Leo, you don't have to go pour a glass of wine and watch Netflix. You could actually go meet someone now for a glass of wine, you know? So social media to me is a little bit of a trap, but I have to say, if I'm in a silly mood, I do it. So like the other day I was in a silly mood and I wanted to post and I did, or like my peace lilies blooming. So I took a photo, and I know people love my plant posts. But yeah, I kind of go in and out with it. I do recognize that it is a part of showbiz. And sometimes I get down on myself that the amount of followers that I have or lack is not reflective of my success in the business. And that I don't like. That makes me uncomfortable going, I'm very successful in so many areas of my life. that then someone would think that I'm not based on social media followers. That I don't like. But the actual act of doing it, if it's a moody thing for me, I go in and out.
What about, you have these iconic birthday posts, your day, you put on people's things, right? Where did that come from? What inspired the iconic your day?
That is a great question. I have consistently done that for as long as Facebook has been around.
Yes.
And I joined Facebook when I played Riff and West Side in London. The reason I joined was to get everybody's photos. People would tag you. And I'd be like, well, I want Meghan's photos. I want Charlie's photo. So I remember that's why I made Facebook. And then when it was, I think I didn't want to be generic and go, happy birthday, Charlie. Like it just felt like generic. So I don't know, your day. And I think what's fun is that it really feels like it's personally yours when obviously you share it with many, many, many people. But yeah, it's just kind of become my thing. And yeah, everybody says that to me now when it's my birthday.
Yeah, well, of course, it's your day. It's your iconic phrase. All right, my last question for you is just any advice to a young artist who wants to grow up and become a Leo Ash Evans? What would that advice be? What should I do if I want to be a Leo when I grow up?
Oh God, if there was, there's so many things. But I think just, pursue the dream, the passion, whatever that thing is, with integrity. It's kind of been a thing that I think has gone away in some ways, whether that's social media, the pandemic. Sometimes people, I don't know, they get into it for the wrong reasons, but to have integrity in your work. And I think, the thing I pride myself on in my own personal career, in MTCA work with my friends too, is communication. So always think about how you're saying what you're saying. Don't like disappear and not show up when it's hard. Hard conversation. There have been so many times in my life, Charlie, where I've been burned by someone just like not talking to me about something, or no, Leo, sorry, we're not going to use you moving forward because now you're too old for this show, or you're, and I'm like, Jesus, why didn't you just tell me? Why did I have to read it on Playbill? Like, so, or breakups, or professionally, personally. So to me, communication is also another big part of, if you're thinking about how to go through your career as a youngin', that's a good thing to think about.
Well, we know we can follow him at Leo Ash Evans. That's EVENS. That's why we say Evans. LeoAshEvans.com. I hear there's a website overhaul coming.
Big overhaul coming. Yeah, look out
Stay tuned for that.
Yep.
And then, of course, at all the MTCA socials that you'll see in all the show notes as well. Leo, anything we missed? Anything you got to plug before we let you go?
No, other than I'm so proud of you, my partner, that as a 100th episode, what you've done in launching our podcast is so exciting. And to get to see you for an hour like this is amazing. Yeah, you're in your element.
Well, it was such a pleasure. Thank you for the time today, man. I really appreciate it. Boom! I hope you enjoyed that episode. Special 100th episode with Leo Ash Evans. One of the biggest questions I get from our MTCA parents is like, is he really like that all the time? After maybe they watch his passionate delivery of a webinar, or after meeting him in initial consultation. And I'm here to report this is just Leo on a Tuesday. Of course, in different business settings, I get to see a Leo who's maybe a little more down to business and not as on as you hear here. But I will say that same spirited, energetic man that you see in public is the real Leo I work with every day. And that brings me to the takeaway I want to do for this episode, which is about Leo's passion. We talked about his charisma and his confidence, which may be something that isn't as present for our younger listeners. These may be qualities you're going to continue to cultivate in your training and your career. But you all can connect to that drive, to that passion that motivates you for what your dream is. This is very similar to the idea we talked about with Ray Mercer, of nothing replacing hard work. But here I want to talk about not just the output of work, of what hard work is, but the engine that motivates you to continue to produce that output. This is true for our alumni listeners. This is true for our seniors wrapping their college processes this month, and our students who are just beginning this process as juniors and sophomores. There is nothing that will be as valuable to the longevity of your career as the furnace that is powering the whole thing. I haven't made a sports analogy in a while. I was doing them a lot in the first season. I thought it was just a bit too much, but I'll make another basketball analogy here. We often look at successful players like Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Steph Curry, Steve Nash, Kobe Bryant, name who you want to name. And we think, oh my God, they are amazing. What an unbelievable amount of God-given talent they have. And of course, there's truth to this. Whether it's being blessed with height or fast twitch muscle fibers or amazing hand-eye coordination, there's no question you need some level of aptitude to succeed at the highest level. But I could name you hundreds of players who had as much or more God-given talent as those people I just named. Stephon Marbury or Steve Francis had every bit as much talent as Steph Curry or Steve Nash. I like that one because it's all variations on Steph or Steven in that name. Current players like Ben Simmons or Zion Williamson have at least as much talent as Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant were blessed with. What the latter two have is that ability to stay in the gym, to keep themselves motivated, and with their passionate love for the sport, achieve their fullest potential. And the same is really true for Broadway performers. For every household name you could name of amazing Broadway performers, I could name another 100 just as talented who didn't achieve that success. Now, that's not only about their hard work and preparation and motivation. There is plenty of luck involved in this career as well, right? We all know that old quote, luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. But for plenty of these amazingly talented performers, including some of my classmates I can think of, their careers shifted because their engine ran dry, much more than because they didn't have the talent to reach their fullest potential and their version of success. And one of the reasons I like to make these sports analogies so much is that this career is a career that really asks you to achieve your fullest potential, just like sports. Not every career is going to demand that of you, since not every career is so competitive in terms of the supply and demand. A lot of people want to be in the NBA. A lot of people want to be on Broadway. I mean, it's a great goal in life, almost no matter what, to try to self-actualize. But if you're going to be a computer programmer, you might be able to be really successful at like 50% of your work potential, since that is an incredibly in-demand job, right? My little brother works for a computer company, and he could not be less passionate about his work, but they keep giving him raises and bonuses. That's the supply and demand of that particular segment of the economy. But if you want to make it in the NBA, or you want to make it on Broadway in your mid-career after many close calls, like the great Leo Ash Evans, you need a particular tenacity that will help you reach your full potential as the multi-hyphenate artist that you can be. And to achieve that, you need to be deeply connected to the engine of your passion that will keep powering you through the ups and downs of this crazy career. Well, that's it. We've achieved it. 100 episodes. We're going to keep going as long as you want to keep listening and as long as there are more schools to interview, and I still feel like I have something to say. As always, but particularly with our centennial episode, a huge thank you to our incredible producer, Meghan Cordier. If you want to give us a virtual hug for our 100th episode, you can give us a rating and review wherever you listen to podcasts. We love 5 stars, and we love you sharing this podcast with your friends. You can also follow us at Mapping the College Audition on Instagram, or follow MTCA in all of our social media listed in our show notes. You can also check out MTCA directly for help with your individual college audition prep at mtcollegeauditions.com. To my young artists out there mapping their journeys, do you believe acting talent is correlated with how creaky the wooden floors are? We'll see you next week.